Live streaming is on.
Hello, welcome everyone to today's World From Here webinar, and we've got some tasty and savory dishes that we're going to talk about today. I'm hungry just thinking about it. And this morning we're joined by Mr. Tim Vasko, who's the Chief Executive Officer and founder of BlockCerts Blockchain. Good morning to you, Tim.
Hi, Dan. How are you? Great to be here.
Thanks.
Love Friday mornings as always. So, yeah. And it's Friday evening there where these guys are.
It is awesome. So, and then we've got Daniele Mensi, who's the president of FusionSTX, and he's located in Rome, Italy. So, a subject matter expert on what we're going to talk about today. So, good evening to you, Daniele.
Hey, Dan. How you doing? Thank you very much. Yes, everything's good. Italy is getting a little bit better with Mr. Mario Draghi being the prime minister. So he just started his journey. So, and very excited to be close to the heart of the projects that we're going to discuss today.
Yeah, this is exciting.
With Mr. Jonathan. Yeah.
Yeah, great. So, we're highlighting a company that has an exciting new digital business model, and the end result is that it's really opening up a brand new segment for consumers, giving choice and giving many different benefits, and we'll hear about that here in a second, and really integrating blockchain and the digital business model so that it enables something new for consumers and really leapfrogging across boundaries with what is available today, which is choice. And that's something we'll be talking about here as well. So we're joined today with Mr. Jonathan Silvestri. You're coming to us from the UK, correct, Jonathan?
No, from Rome today.
Oh, you're in Rome today. Okay,
yeah.
Great.
Yeah,
the last time we talked, I think that you were in London, but you're a world traveler, so.
Yeah, just back and forth, trying to get everything ready.
Great. Well, as you know, I'm a big fan. The last time we talked, big fan of what you're doing in your business model, and also of Italian food, and most of us are, and Italian goods. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And Tim, if you could just share the screen, that would be great. And
absolutely,
we'll ask a few questions here. I don't know if anybody has seen this, but I'm also a fan of a new show that just started, which is Stanley Tucci's Searching for Italy. It's a new show and hit on CNN. I think they've aired twice on Sunday nights. And it really shows, it really made me think about your business model, Jonathan, because it shows the different flavors from around Italy and how unique different products are, as well as the issues with making sure that products are real products and fraud and all the things that we're going to be talking about today. So it's something that I sent out, or we sent out in some of our social media, just to whet people's appetite to today and what we're going to talk about. So with that, we look forward to learning about what you're doing, Jonathan. And if you would, maybe give us a little bit about your background and why this is important to you. And then I know Daniele's got, and Tim have quite a few questions for you as well.
Sure. Well, my background is varied, to say the least. I mean, I grew up in restaurants. My father was a restaurateur in the UK, and my earliest memories are always in that kind of environment. And then through after university, and I studied lots of different things. I did politics, for example, at university, but that took me into journalism. It took me into sales, marketing. So I've been around the block a little bit. But I always ended up, for some reason, I kind of fell back into this mostly as a passion. It's something that's very important. It's very close to my heart. Italian food, and how it's seen, outside of Italy. And we're fiercely proud of not only just the regions that we come from, but also the food that that's produced there. And so, like we talked about last time, you have a very strict guidelines of food production as well in Italy, and these are stringent. You can't deviate from these. It's very, very important. And that's what defines producer and area, and also the Made in Italy brand, which is very, very important. so when you combine that with culture and heritage, it's something that's traditional, but for many years, hundreds of years. And luckily, we still have many small producers in Italy that stick to these age-old traditions. But of course, as we modernize and we go through this digital age, things need to change. And there's a very big problem in terms of food fraud as well. I published an article I wrote on my LinkedIn page about fake foods, Italian fake foods, which is basically Italian sounding foods with an Italian flag on, but are not actually made in Italy. So you can probably imagine that there's a lot is lost because of that. I mean, it equates to about 50 billion euros every year for the Italian economy, which is quite a hit. But then people don't know that it's not their fault. They don't know that what they're buying, their prosciutto, is not DOP from San Daniele. It's from a factory somewhere else in Europe. So it's very important to know where your food is coming from and what you're putting in your body, really, because it has an impact. As we can see from the last year, everything we've gone through, a lot of it is impacted because of our diets and what we consume.
So Jonathan, let me just stop you real quick. So this idea of a 50, I think you said 50 billion pound loss,
euro
loss, and that's astounding. So when we measure those numbers and you start solving a problem like that, I mean, obviously we're consumers. We're interested in the end product. I want fantastic amount of Italian food, a great bottle of wine. I want it to be authentic, and especially if I'm going to pay authentic prices, right?
Sure.
If I'm going to go to a Whole Foods, I want it to be authentic. If I'm going to go to a restaurant, I want it to be authentic, and so forth. So, but 50 billion, how do you break that down? And how do you solve that for this? How do you start? Like, what got you here? Yeah.
Well,
give me I know what I want as an end product, but I want to know how I get there through that supply chain and those.
Yeah, and there's such a difference in the end product too, and that's with my wife, Italian, and tasting what her mom would cook, etc. It was a whole new introduction to a whole new life for me when we first got married. So.
It's why and when you mentioned the Stanley Tucci program, the series on TV, and he comes to Italy, and I think he's half Calabrese. I think so.
He is, yes.
And I am as well. And you only really recognize the importance of the food because when you're in Italy, it's easy. You go down the road and you go to the local supermarket, like the smallest supermarket you can find, and they would have the equivalent of the gourmet display that you'd find in Harrods or Selwages or Whole Foods, but for a fraction of the price because it's locally produced, it's locally sourced. So when you break it down, essentially the products that get sold abroad, it's mass produced. You cannot control the supply chain in a mass-produced environment. It's very, very difficult because you have economies of scale. The cost for them to do that is prohibitively expensive. So for me, the most important thing was to be able to offer consumers the opportunity to not only be educated about the food they're buying, but to know where it's from. And I spoke a while ago with Tiffany, and she said she bought some olive oil and she paid quite a lot for this olive oil. And I said, well, which one was it? And she told me which one it was. And I said, is there an address on the back of it? And she said, no, it just says it's from the European Union. So it can be from 5 different countries, from olive groves all over the place. And there's no real way of knowing where these, where this olive oil is really from. So for me,
it makes it really interesting because here we go back to digital, right? So here we are traveling around Europe, as Dan said. You get into Italy, you have this amazing food. I can't wait to get over there, by the way, to go dining with you guys. And
no kidding.
Definitely doing a video on that one.
Yeah,
please take me.
Definitely. But here is what's interesting. I'm going to make a relationship. We hear a lot about these NFTs, Daniele, now. and authenticated digital assets, right? And what's going on, it's just blowing up. And now we're talking about something that's really near and dear to all of us, which is food, eating, dining, experience the quality and the culture. Well, we're on the other side of the world. I'm in Canada, Dan's in the United States. You know, we're hoping you guys can lift this up from where you are. And I've eaten in Rome, it's amazing, and all over Italy, and lift that experience up and bring it here. And really, that's how I'm looking at this. Like, really, you have this supply chain and digital business challenge to solve. Because when I'm standing there, unless the guy that's in one of these small or regional corner stores has been out shopping at Costco, it's probably fairly authentic, right? So how do you see that? I mean, you're creating a whole new world here.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what we're trying to do. I mean, if you, in terms of the numbers, so when you ask me how I break it down, the main, well, I mean, apart from America being a huge market for Italian export, I mean, it's absolutely massive, but it's controlled by very, very few. They're monolith, if you like. It's huge wholesalers and distributors, and they control the majority of what goes in and out. So when you buy something there, you're paying a premium for a product that does not have that kind of quality that you would expect paying such a premium. So when you look at the UK market, for example, which just for Italian food on its own is nearly 3 billion. The online grocery market runs into about just over 20 billion. That's up 33% from last year. It's a huge increase.
Massive.
We were looking at different figures from the Office of National Statistics in the UK, and the overall market value is about $500 billion, which is huge.
That's
so
massive. Yeah.
When you break it down across households, that includes pasta and olive oil and meats, everything else, you have a massive untapped market, because the figures that you see in publications, the figures that you see that are printed, they don't take into account a lot of variables. So when we crunched all those numbers, we realized that the market was probably about 25 to 30% undervalued, or underquoted, essentially. So when you have that many, and in Italy, in the UK, you have 13 million purchases of made in Italy products. You have 1.3 million Italian and Anglo-Italians in the UK, so you already have a good market. If you transfer that to America, you have the market is huge. It's absolutely huge, and that's why companies like Italy, for example, have done so very well, because they've opened this to the general public, and people are now more aware of the quality that they can actually get. But it's still very expensive, because they're not buying direct from the producer. They're going through lots of different middlemen. So by the time all the tariffs and the taxes and the fees and everyone's taken a little bit along the line, then you're paying a massive amount for something that we get here for a lot less. And so by creating giving consumers an opportunity through a digital platform to be able to connect with a producer, to explore the producer estates, the farmhouses, to buy direct from them, the producer doesn't have to worry about these blocks to entry and market. They don't have to worry about these barriers. They don't have to worry about marketing. They don't have to worry about any of these things. So they can keep the price a more convenient price for them to A, sell better, and then to B, have people want to buy that. Because when we talk about Whole Foods and Italy, they pay for the shelf space.
Right. So, well, it's interesting, because as you bring this up, here's what's going through my head. I'm thinking Amazon, Alibaba, what has been done at scale for retail, and we all know how big that logistical challenge that they started solving years ago has impacted us now during this pandemic, as well as, so eliminating those costs, as well as eliminating the fraud, essentially, or the misrepresentation, if you want to be a little gentler about it.
Yeah. Right? So, I mean, you want, it's very, because Italians are very particular, they're very protective of the food that they produce and that they sell. Yes, they want to sell, but you you know, you could be Amazon, you could go up and you could see a producer and say, look, I really like, I love this stuff that you're selling. I want to take it, and they'll say, no, I'm not having it. And why? It's all the money in the world. No, they're not interested. It's very difficult to build relationship with producers that are that connected to the land, because they understand that if they devalue that product, then they devalue their heritage and their reason of producing this food.
Because it's more about the
for
passion and the involvement and the history than it is the money in a lot of cases to these artistic producers, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and they don't want to be put in a position where all of a sudden they have to produce more because it's been requested from them from the supermarket that's already driven down in price anyway.
Right.
So they would rather have the Italian producers would rather have a constant flow of sale as opposed to massive spikes and dips in production, because it affects their bottom line eventually. So
and the other thing about that too, interestingly enough, like you brought up Whole Foods, but just to get that shelf space in Whole Foods,
it's incredibly expensive.
These little guys are hard to manage, and they're managing their own kind of ecosystem. But to go out and actually privately source that stuff for a Whole Foods, that's at the Amazon scale, literally, it's just not going to happen, right?
No, because with Amazon, they're paying the storage. So what they don't sell, they'll end up spending on keeping that stock that they don't get to sell. And then when you're looking at with Whole Foods, I was talking to Dan earlier and Daniele, that when I was in Atlanta, one of the stores that they had there, and I said to the lady, I said, well, how much is this shelf space? This tiny little bit of shelf space. It wasn't very big for a local honey producer, and it was about $1,200 for the month.
Wow!
So how many does he have to sell in that month to cover not only the costs of that, but also his production? And then if they don't sell enough, he can't keep it there. But the footfall isn't enough for him to build that brand. So when you give opportunities to producers in other markets they won't be able to access, it's much more empowering for them, and so they don't have to worry about those barriers that they would invariably have to worry about. And that's really the main crux of that of what we're trying to do, is to not only give consumers the ability and the possibility to buy these wonderful things, products at the prices that we would buy here in Italy, but also to learn about the 800 odd certified products that we have more than anyone else in the world. So they already are guaranteed a safety and a high quality of a product that wouldn't really begin with, because don't forget, Whole Foods white labels a lot of their products as well.
Yeah,
right.
So,
and like you brought up before, online grocery shopping is, what did you say the number was now?
Online grocery, the market in the UK at the moment, which is where we're focused for the moment, it's worth 20 billion plus. 20
billion.
But we should not forget, that's what my point I want to make, just to have also your comment there, that if we just observe the numbers of what's going on into the digital asset space, because money is getting there from the institutional downwards. So, and if we just keep Bitcoin as a reference, we have just 100 million people ever owned or owning Bitcoin, 100 million. And this number is expected to be tenfold in 4 years to go. So this means from now until 2024, 2025, we will have 1 billion people either owning on Bitcoin or a fraction of a Bitcoin. So these guys are people that have digital money to spend, because Bitcoin is just a catalyst. It's not only about Bitcoin, it's all the rest which is connected to the Bitcoin. So this leads me to think that the market, the addressable market, it's way bigger than one can be observed today. Yeah.
No, the addressable market is absolutely huge. And also, I mean, we try and be conservative just by nature of not wanting to have things run away from us. But when you look at the addressable market, it's increasing rapidly. I mean, exponentially. So when you look at digital assets, people are going to want to be. They want to know how to use that, how to integrate that, and it's something that is ongoing. I guess we're still very new in that process. In terms of in terms of what we do, I mean, we're lucky because we, you know, our blueprint is from the outset. We adopt these measures, so we become a truly innovative and scalable tech food business because of our adoption of tech, because of the opportunities that the blockchain gives to not only producers and suppliers, but also businesses that sell, because you have a fully traceable and trackable system. So as a startup, we can adopt these measures from the ground up organically. Whereas if you're a larger business, larger distributor, the costs involved sometimes a little bit. It's prohibitively expensive for them sometimes to be able to do that.
Well, you're talking about some of the largest producers in the world, like Nestle and some of these giant brands that control food. And it's interesting. You use the word organic just now, and this idea of when I go to my local market and I'm touching the vegetables, which, by the way, if I touch it, I have to buy it now.
Oh yeah, okay.
Right. And then we look at our digital device. We don't have that same experience anymore. And I think we can all agree that we've lost a little bit.
Yeah.
But if you're innovative and you start thinking, well, what is the world from here going to be like? Well, I probably want to have this as close to real world experience as I can have. And one way to do that is get the proper product and quality that I'm paying for and seeking. That's number one. Number two is, go back to Stanley Tucci. Wouldn't it be great to experience all this and then bring back travel and go enjoy what it actually is to physically be there and knowing what to expect? So I think it's both, as you said, the tech food business is really reshaping a lot of the way that this business model of food, of supply chain in all products on authentication is gonna affect us in the future, don't you?
Oh, I agree. I mean, the bottom line of technology in the food space is that it enables us to have a visibility at a trust level that was unaccomplishable in the past.
Right.
You know, you look at, I mean, so to coin one of your phrases, I have to steal one of your phrases, Tim, but it's trust, truth, and transparency. That's essentially what it is. Over time, the big producers, they have increased production through agrotech, and they've created a massive or mass production effect, which creates a less qualitative product, and it also encourages food waste. So you're looking at food waste in the EU, about 6 billion every year. That's I mean, that's a huge amount of food waste. And the US, I think in the US, it's 730 football stadiums of waste.
It's astounding. I actually looked at that statistic, and over 40% of the world's food supply goes to waste. Yeah. Current distribution methodologies, and some of those are purely profit driven.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah, because then you have to give you an example, there's a place in Sicily which has the most amazing peaches, and they grow in the bag, and they have this wonderful aroma and the taste, and it's fantastic, it's phenomenal. And I lived in Atlanta for a while, and it's called the peach state because they have all these peaches. But when you want to sell them to the supermarket, if it has a blemish, they just leave it to rot in the ground.
Right.
And so much has gone to waste. So then that creates overproduction, and that harms the planet, it harms the climate, it harms everything. And then the bottom line is, in that respect, is everything comes full circle again. You know,
and an interesting stat too is that if you took the food waste away and you properly had distribution models, you would also take away hunger.
Yeah, you would. Yeah, and exactly. Consequently, traceability is absolutely critical for the food supply chain.
Mm-hmm.
Because without
so this has got these social and ethical kind of impactful elements that are very powerful.
And Tim, I was going to ask if you could stop the screen share because the YouTube is having issue with the sound quality right now. So, okay, thank you. Okay, go ahead, Jonathan. Sorry about that.
So when we want to adopt, so we're talking with Daniele earlier on about blockchain. You know, the current communication framework within the food ecosystem, it makes traceability a time-consuming task because there's also things involved, and the structured blockchain, it ensures that each player along the food value or the food value chain would generate and securely share the data to create an accountable traceable system. So with GudItalia, we have what we call it the FSQC system, which is hardware, and in each consignment, we track the temperature, the humidity, location throughout the journey. So when the customer receives their order, then they can scan the QR code and it reveals the data so that it's all there for them to see. Then it creates this trust and it creates this transparency, and it gives, if you like, it's like a consumer confidence index. So
it can also even create an experience too, right? I mean,
yeah. I mean, that's what, we want people to come into the world of the producer. So by going online with us and going on and looking at there's 500 stores that will be there with over 10,000 products. Tesco's, which is the largest supermarket in the UK. They had about 30 products that I could see were actually made and imported from Italy. Right. So they have this huge store to be able to explore, to understand, and all of these, the DOP and DOCG and all these different labels that we attach to the food, so that they know that that the integrity of the food is the best it can be. They can learn about all of this. They can go into producer estates, farmhouses, see how it's all produced, and they'll go off on a journey. And then when they receive the product, then they know that it's something that it's unique. There's nothing really around at the moment.
It's the real deal.
Yeah. And I think people now, they want to know these things. They need to know. I mean, it's important. They want to know.
Yeah, and they don't need to be expert on the blockchain. That's the beauty. Right. So in fact, this should not even be, let's say, told. As I used to repeat, to buy on Amazon, you don't need to know what a TCP/IP is. Right. So you just go there and you buy. The same there. So this is possible because of the blockchain, but people should not be. It's not needed to be fully understood.
Because of the same model that's driving NFTs too. Because this concept of uniqueness, traceability, as you say, as we share actually the words trust, truth, and transparency. And what I'd like to do, I'm gonna just flash this slide, and then we'll talk about it. But I guess we won't talk over it. Okay. Mm-hmm. So just give people a chance to look at that. Yeah. And so you mentioned Tedesco. So there were Tedesco, Planet Organic, Whole Foods, and Sainsbury's. Big distribution channels with massive amounts of, like, literally hundreds of millions of dollars worth of infrastructure built in there. And what I think is really fascinating about this, and we're experiencing this in every sector on the planet, you're seeing this massive transition, is that this idea of a blockchain layer that can actually sit on top of this old infrastructure and remove a lot of those costs in that supply chain, as well as disintermediate, if you will, a lot of those fee-based suppliers and distributors. Yeah. Now it's interesting because I can see, and this is very true, that in the next few years, you're going to see that distribution chain start making its way as a lead into those big suppliers where they can consume that. Because the other thing about blockchain and structure like that is the large guys can consume that data. Now, if you're a Whole Foods, you get both. You get the best of both worlds, right? Yeah. You can pick up a GudItalia model, really have that shelf space, invest in something that consumers are willing to pay the price for, and make this a profitable location, whereas a small supplier on their own could never even begin to do that.
No, they wouldn't. It would be far too, aside from language barriers and events that they have to go to promote themselves, which cost thousands, that they don't have, and also now because of coronavirus, no one's going anywhere. They're not promoting anything. Right. So they got some. They always have a little bit of marketing budget, but it doesn't really extend that much because they're small producers. But if you want to taste the most incredible products, it's those guys that produce it. So if you went onto the website and you wanted to buy something from us, you would know that not many people are going to have it available, because once it's gone, it needs to be produced again.
Right.
So
Jonathan,
well,
you're the Jack Ma Alibaba of Italian food.
oh, yes,
Because and so for the people who don't know how Alibaba started, and this is just a little snippet that I want to share, is Jack Ma, before he had Alibaba and all the technology, had 30,000 Chinese manufacturers on spreadsheets and paper. 30,000. He had an army of people actually in apartments,
Yeah.
doing all of the data entry and talking to these people by phone. Language barrier, you just brought it up, distributed all over the place. These guys made great products in China, but didn't have a distribution channel. Now look what we have today. There's another story right here in my hometown called Abe Books. And it stood for the Advanced Book Exchange, now owned by Amazon. And it was all those little great, I don't know if you guys, I'm a big book fan, as you can see from my shelves, but it was all those little stores that were little bookstores. Well, in the meantime, the big Borders and all those guys were coming out, very similar to your examples of Tedesco and Whole Foods. And these little guys were suffering. So the guys here in town built Abe Books to be a small store online presence. And the reason I bring that up is when people are listening to this and they're thinking about how do I get involved with Good Italia, let me just give you the trajectory of Abe Books. Started in a little Victoria, BC. It grew and sold to Amazon for $150 million. And it's still Abe Books. That's still where all the used textbooks for students come from. You go on and you get a used book on Amazon. It's using that infrastructure. So this is the model. I'm getting down to your business model. This is your business model. It's a proven model. It's going to work. And it's just brilliant that you're using the blockchain technology to actually solve a problem that, as Daniele said, couldn't be solved before. Without blockchain, you couldn't have done this. Impossible.
No, the data would have been far. I mean, a lot of these, like you say, these big companies, it's all manual, and to go through that much paperwork, not only it's inaccurate, you make mistakes, but then the system becomes vulnerable that way.
That's right.
And then food safety and food integrity then comes into play, which is what we try and accomplish through moving forward with blockchain. And
I think we are close to the tipping point of mass adoption of considering this as a de facto standard, because that's what is going to change everything. So to me, is not, as I was explaining before, to explain to people why they should buy because of the blockchain. It's the other way around. It's the other way around, meaning that this is the new standard.
Yeah.
And you can only have this trust, truth, and transparency if you have this. If you don't have it, you don't have the same. It's a different product. And that's why you have to have it.
Yeah, you have. I mean, not only that, it's also a much more fair and transparent system for the smaller producer, who's often priced out by the big distributors because they just can't compete. And if you give access and you give data, it's I suppose you're creating a holistic picture really here of the supply and demand, and establishing a ledger and a network to balance the pricing in that market. So that way the producer isn't penalized by higher entry and distribution costs and fluctuations in market prices. So I hope that's how it's going to pan out. But just to give you an example, so for example, you're ordering on the website, and this wonderful oil, this is a guy called Francesco Pepe. I don't know if you can see that, right? So here we go. So Francesco produces
Sign me up.
this wonderful oil, right? So he produces a limited amount. And like I said to Tiffany, on the back, you've got the address of where it is, you've got the date of when it was produced, and it's best before. So when you incorporate, so for example, you from his olive grove, sent across through towards the UK, but along each line or each transport point, the nodes that are then attached to the blockchain to the ledger system that he will then be able to trace and track. We can then monitor as it comes into us. So once you've ordered your basket, so you've gone online, you've ordered your basket, you know what you want, and you know that no one else really is likely to have that product. So you can then receive the parcel in the post down, and within that box is a QR code. So using something called a hydrohygrometer, which we put into each consignment, measuring the temperature and the locations and humidities, everything else. All of that data is then downloaded once we receive it, put onto a QR code, so the customer can scan that QR code and can see how the journey of that bottle of olive oil. And apart from the fact that the taste is phenomenal, you're not going to be paying $30 for it. You pay a lot less because he doesn't have to worry about all those other costs. He's entering into another market which he wouldn't have had access to previously, and everyone's happy. So that really, and we're still keeping the integrity of the product without it being too much. So I don't want to go online and see. Say, for example, you're having a dinner party and you want to have all your friends over, and it's an Italian evening. So all right, we'll have some prosecco, but we'll have some ham and some cheese. By the time you figured out which websites to go on to get that product at a massively inflated price anyway, then you've got another 5 websites that you have to pay shipping to. And if you look, when we look at the slide that you had, the different supermarkets up there, they'll have a minimum order. So if you want free delivery, you need to order £25. So if you don't find it in one supermarket, say you don't find it in Sainsbury's or in Tesco's or in Whole Foods, and you find it maybe at Planet Organic, but that's 4 different sites that you've got to visit, that you've got to fill your cart for. And if you want the delivery instead of having to go pick it up, it's going to cost you. So you spent £100 basically to have your Italian evening. And the food, the product, it won't be the same quality that you'd get from Good Italia, because we are sourcing directly from those producers. So we've eliminated all of those problems and issues, so that you can just go online, you can order what you want, and you know that's going to be the best that you're ever going to, in fact, you'll be upset when you don't have it anymore. And then you send an email.
And it's also part of your dinner party, because now you can say, you've got your Prosecco and you've got your olive oil and you've got all of your ingredients, and you're like, let me just take you on a journey of what we're going to be going through. And you can do that digital journey.
Yeah, you can. And that's the best.
How cool is that?
That is,
and the taste is different too.
Yeah,
it's an experience.
It's so different, and you'll never want to go anywhere else. You'll go Tesco's, forget it. Sainsbury's, not forget it. So, and just in terms of addressable market, when you look at the market and the size of the market, just 0.003% of that, which would be what we're looking at achieving in the first 18, 19 months. I mean, it's a fraction, an absolute fraction of what is available, and it's still a sizable. For us, it'd be around about 400,000 as a ballpark figure. But by year 3, even if we were at a revenue of 9 million, it's still 0.004% of the market. So when you look at the figures, you look at the market, and you look at what's available, it really is a no-brainer. And you incorporate the opportunity to be able to adopt and focus your delivery and supply chain using blockchain, then you have everything you need in this little package, which is really exciting. And I cannot wait to see
and what's exciting to me, actually, having been on the more boring side of this, which is the I guess I'll call it boring, but it's been exciting for me to build out all that architecture and so forth, and then to actually see you put something so tangible, so real, so critically important, this idea of food technology on this platform and this model that actually implements it. You're not just talking about it. We're talking about literally within the next few weeks, you can have your app, you can download the app, you can track this stuff, you can throw in these QR codes, and you go. You're doing this. This isn't a white paper. This is done. You spent all the time to aggregate these suppliers, the food, that exactly down to the nth degree how to do it. And we plug it into the blockchain, you've got this.
Yeah, we mainframe it.
You've got this.
Mainframed, 500 producers that we built relationships with over the years, which is quite
Right.
something. But you know, in terms of the actual experience, we wanted to create an experience for the consumer that bypasses the generalized experience that you get when you go shopping online now anyway. And we collaborate with the university, Sapienza University, and one of our founders is an absolute genius, and he's working all the AI and the machine learning, so that when you go online and you go onto our store, you will be met with like a little survey, and it will say, right, what do you prefer, what your preferences, what your allergens, everything, because then it will, like a guide, it'll be your own personal guide that will drive you through to the places that you know that you want to go, the foods that you want to buy, that you're interested in. So if it was saffron, if it was goji berries, if it was pistachio cream, Amalfi lemons, pasta from Urbina, all these wonderful places, you know, you just have to really give the AI an idea of what you're looking for, and it will take you straight there, and you don't have to worry about it, because I go online shopping online, and I don't know what I'm looking for half the time, and then if you don't put the right search or the exact name that you're looking for, it won't come up with what you wanted to buy, and you just waste time. So by incorporating the machine learning experience, you get everything in this. So
it's like my GPS for Italian food. I just go, these are the things I want, this is the end use I want, and boom, I end up there. Yeah,
just like Netflix, when you want to go on Netflix, right, watch whatever it is, it knows what what your preference is going to be. And then the final stage of that is Uberizing delivery service.
And this is so difficult. I mean, even in Italy, that people have a very high level of culture with the food. So take, for example, one is the most simple, in brackets, piece, which is the wine. Okay. So if you want to buy, if you want to select a bottle of wine, it's super, super difficult. So to find a very good wine at a decent price without paying 100 euros or so, and selecting just a few, very few brands and few types of wine, which gives you this special touch. It's so unique, which I didn't find anywhere. So I'm shopping also on the big platforms, which I know exactly what to shop. But unless you are not an expert, you cannot do that, because you have a very generic, you have a standard experience, because those platforms are built on the average consumer.
Yeah.
And here we're talking about a niche product. We're talking about the top of the top. So this means there should not be a standardized experience if you want to buy premium.
Right.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. You want to get the best experience that you can. And it further enhances your shopping experience all the time in every way. Each time.
So I think that as we've kind of covered this, it does speak to what the market wants, what they need, and what they're demanding. Like this is not only a business strategy, it's a brand strategy. It's got all of these underlying kind of elements to it that is part of Good Italia. And really, at the end of the day, isn't that what you're trying to achieve? And isn't that what the blockchain itself enables?
Yeah, it's I think in terms of being pioneers, the Italians have always been very, very good at creating. They're amazing artists and inventors and creators. Right. But one thing that often escapes them is keeping up with technology. So in a way, that has benefited us. I'm being very selfish here, because you still have, you still have small producers, and that's what we spent a lot of time building up, these relationships with these small producers. Otherwise, you wouldn't have this uniqueness, you wouldn't have this the taste, the freshness, and all these incredible things that you get when you come on holiday to Italy, which you can now have when you go back home. But we have to understand, for the first time in history, that we can know everything about our food. And I think it's up to us, and we have responsibility to give that information to people.
And from a pure technology standpoint, this is where innovation comes in. And you're right. Having been in technology now for more years or decades than I'd like to admit, and looking at these large infrastructure systems The fact that you had no technology and you can be, as you said earlier, nimble, build this from the ground up and adopt all of these new technologies, blockchain, AI, machine learning, authentication, measuring devices, all of these things that don't exist in legacy systems. It's very much, and Daniele can speak to this, it's very much like the fintech industry, where all these giant bank systems, which today, maybe at one point they were innovative, but they're awful today. They're just awful. And they're
playing catch up. Yeah.
Yeah, they're bloated, and you can't change them because then you break something. Take it from me, as you change something in technology, especially the old systems, and you just blow up the whole thing. And it's just awful to work in that environment. So you do have this opportunity to be a true change agent for food technology. That's what you're doing. And
because he's starting from not asking the question, what is the profitability of this new business? There's no profitability of anything you want to build from scratch.
Right.
It's a white piece of paper. It's a white page. So it's an untapped marketplace. So and then I was telling before that the market that Jonathan mentioned before, in my view, would be 10 to 20 times bigger than what he initially sized. Because digital money, if we see from the macro, I'm mostly a macro guy. If we see it from the macro perspective, there will be tons of digital money flowing into the real economy that we don't see today. And I said before, Bitcoin is just a hobby today. 100 million people just looking at the Bitcoin chart and seeing the increase in price. But what is going to happen in the next 4 years? There's be a huge amount of money. We're talking about trillion and trillion of dollars flowing into the real economy. Which start from the digitized, space only. It doesn't go, in a cash. Cash today, it's worth nothing, and it will be even less today, less than nothing in the future. So this means the money starts from digital and then goes downwards. So that's why I'm so bullish on the creation of this new fully digitized business model, number one, and the fact that the big guys that you mentioned before, they cannot cope with you.
No, because they can't.
Because they have to change something, and changing for them, it costs a hell amount of money rather than buying you. Let me say in brackets. I hope.
Jonathan and I were talking about support local. There's a big company that we all know, and I won't mention their name, but their brand is about supporting local. And that's a whole new topic we could talk about. But, they can only possibly carry so many products, but also there's shelf space, and you have to purchase for shelf space. And you just really, this opens up the opportunity for really supporting local and getting products that you can't get. But that whole support local is a misnomer. It's misleading, I believe.
It is. It's so important, because otherwise we just end up with greenhouses producing our fruit and veg, which is not fun. Doesn't taste very good.
It's not healthy.
No, it doesn't help the environment. And going back to what Daniele was saying about this wealth, about all the money is going to be flooding into the market. I mean, this is the greatest wealth creator in history so far.
Yes.
And if small producers, then that you have that local to you, if they wanted to explore other markets, it's not so easy for them to be able to tap into that. But if you give people an opportunity, you see the adoption pretty much instantly. And I think people are just, it's a tipping point, isn't it? Really, it's a tipping point.
Really is.
It is, because consumers want choice, and we haven't had choice, especially once you're introduced to what really choice is.
Well, and a really important aspect of all of this is inclusion, right? We talk about financial inclusion. Now we're talking about the distributor, the supply chain, inclusion in the supply chain, where you typically as a local supplier have been excluded, right? Then we talk about inclusion. What about all those consumers out there that would like to do this once every 6 months? and they want to have, treat themselves to this amazing meal and what have you. They maybe would have never had the opportunity to have this kind of experience. That's inclusion. It's inclusion to bring the idea of a lower cost to more of a supply chain, more of these qualified supplies, so more people can enjoy this. So really, when we look at it, we are looking at a transformation of the size and scope of the market, the access to the market, and, as Daniele said, a complete transformation of the amount of volume that's going to come in to drive those kinds of markets. And this just happens to be one that this whole time I'm thinking, I'm really getting hungry.
I know. I want a glass of wine and
my mouth's watering here.
That's why I said that people are going to be hungry after this.
That's right. What is it? The best way to a man's heart is through his stomach. So there you go. You got to my heart.
Yeah.
And I hope you got to the rest of the people's that are watching and hearing this heart. It's an amazing project, and it's an amazing opportunity to be part of it on this side. And I hope that the people who are part of this want to be on this journey with us and with you, Jonathan. I think it's really, really cool. I think it's really important, and it's got all the markings of an amazing success with proven models from when technology transformed before.
That's it. Yeah, very, very, very much so.
Yeah.
Well, when we say startup, I mean, you've got years and years of relationships, and you already have it's like the 10-year startup, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you've got platform, you've got things ready to go. So it's not like just an idea.
And they do say that it takes a very long time to be an overnight success. But I love this slide. Life is a combination of magic and pasta by Federico Fellini, and I probably blew that. So
yeah.
But
one of the truest things ever said. I have to agree with Fellini.
Yeah.
So when we look at that, and we look at the magic that you're bringing through what Good Italia can be, and the magic of the technology, the blockchain can be, and the magic of the financial markets and the tokenomics that Daniele and I talk endlessly about, and how fast this happens now. That's the other thing is, and your stat earlier was how fast the online shopping market in foods has grown.
It's huge.
This is huge.
Last year, it's stratospheric. And I mean, yes, people, at the end of the day, people want good food, they want it at a decent price, and they want it now.
Right.
That's
right.
Well, and when you look at consumers' buyer behavior because of COVID, I mean, my wife and I, it's a totally different way that we shop now. We order online for many of our goods that we never did. We used to go to the stores, and now a lot of it's online. So it's like the perfect storm for what you're doing too.
I mean, an average of 30%. Yeah, 30% last year increase in online grocery shopping sales. And the UK with it, the UK
That's crazy.
has one of the largest per capita spends in the world on grocery shopping. It's about £64, £65. And Tesco, when we're talking about the big ones, but they broke it was 1 million orders in a week. That's
Wow.
10 million items a day. And they don't have any of the products that the Italian stuff is, it's
basic. It's basic.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really stuff. And I was, it gets frustrating, it really does. Cause you go, look, try it, taste this and see how it is. And how does it, because you've been eating the wrong one all the time. But now
you're a very change agent, because once people starting changing their habits, behavior, tastes, then they're not ready to come back.
That's true, and they're doing that.
And it's for me, it's a lifetime change. When you taste some premium olive oil that you don't find at the supermarket where you usually shop for €5 or even €10, then you start to think that wow, I didn't know that. So that, I want that one, which I tasted it, and I want to keep on shopping this way. I will not change my habits.
Yeah. No, yeah, and when you give people, opportunity to try new things, and you can, you send them and we have subscription services that we're going to be launching as well, so they can try different things and see what they like, what they don't like, and it's just, I mean, the possibilities are endless. But the food is of such amazing quality, which is, I guess, why Italy has, one of the eldest or oldest of populations after Japan, is because of they don't mess around with their food. And I think, and people now, especially now with what's happened, they want to know, they're conscious of the fact that they can have better, they can eat better, and they can do it at, without breaking the bank, without having to go to a specialized store to do it, so, it's all there. And if all of this stuff, if it all comes together in the way that it should, it's going to be incredibly dynamic. And we don't, we wouldn't just stop at the UK, the market is, it's global. So Germany's a big buyer of Italian food, but also the States, and now Asia as well is very important. And Asian markets are moving forward, and they like luxury. They understand that Italy as a producer is a producer of there are some brands. There are some brands, at the in let's say out of Italy, that are known to be good. For example, Chianti for wine, but Chianti, it doesn't mean anything. It's not a guarantee of the quality of a product. Chianti is just let's say a sub brand name. Exactly. So there are tons of different wines that are being produced from €5 a bottle to €100 a bottle. So then you need to know what is the difference. So whether you're buying something that's worth 5 and you pay 100, or you pay something that's really worth 100. which is in some shops you pay a premium price for an average quality. Right. The key thing is to merge, premium quality and price. Obviously, that goes together. You don't know where to start today. No, you don't. But you also have the producers also have their reputation. And when we talked earlier about VChain has already Barolo, one of the Barolos, I can't remember which one, up in Piemonte, has already incorporated itself onto VChain's blockchain using, I think, the Thor tokens. But and they've started to distribute the wine on the blockchain with a complete traceable. I think they're using. I think it's the NFI. Well, I think the RFID. Yeah. RFID, so kind of infrared kind of technology. Yeah. They're using, and so everything is all registered and recorded, and they can't, because with French wines and Italian wines, a lot of them they'll copy them, and they'll supposedly, like you were saying, how do you know it's not a €5 wine and you spent 100 on it? Well, this way you can't, it can't be, you can't make a mistake. And it's now is the time. That's how we use this technology. And that's so let's talk a little bit about how people can contact Good Italia and get involved. We've got the fusionfunder.com. You can go right there, choose Good Italia. There's a little bit about what you're shooting to do with your business model, and you can register to review more. And when you register, you will be able to get information about how the business model is going to shape up, what kind of investment opportunities might emerge, and so forth. So as you shape your, again, regulatory approved market model in these various jurisdictions, people are able to join this incredible journey. And like I said, I think you are onto something that is much, much bigger, super exciting with the Italian food markets and these specialties and authentication, but it's much, much bigger than just the underlying or apparent thing. It's this massive transformation in the way we will be shopping, and we will be feeding our bodies and creating magic of food and Italian magic. There's nothing better. There isn't. And so let's call it the Renaissance. Yeah, this is the Renaissance. This is the Renaissance. Put a stake in the ground. I believe that started in Italy. So you guys have a good foundation to. Record with that kind kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, it started in a little bit north than where we are today.
Right.
So we're in Rome. So the Renaissance, the heart of the Renaissance is mostly Florence. But because Rome started a little bit before, but Florence just flourished after, during the Renaissance period.
That's
so
where you were born, right, Daniele?
This is where I was born. But there's a lot of products of Good Italia coming from Tuscany.
There you go.
Tim, also in the chat stream, I also put your website and also Fusion Funder, which you were just showing, that will show up in the chat stream, and we'll send that out to everyone as well.
And it will be posted under our YouTube channel here.
Correct.
And so we'd like everybody to subscribe to the YouTube channel, visit Fusion Funder, register there, put your thumbs up. If you love Italian food, really put your thumbs up, give us 2 thumbs up, and join us on the journey. Jonathan, it's going to be really cool to see this come about, and I'm super excited to work with you long term on the success of Good Italia. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been an amazing hour, and now you guys get to go have your glass of wine, and I'm going to go get a nice espresso.
Me too. I'm going to go have some
good
cheese.
Coffee from Italy. There we go.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks again for joining us, Jonathan.
Thanks.
And I'd like to end with everybody saying, stay safe, stay healthy, get your food from the right place, know what you're putting in your body. That's absolutely critical. And get it digitally. We've got the way to do that right now, thanks to Jonathan and Good Italia.
Yeah, I'm back, Jonathan, and Good Italia. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.